Good day, family, and all praise to our Father, the merciful, almighty Creator. I know I've read these scriptures in the past, but they tie into the article I'm about to read. Deuteronomy 28:68. And the Almighty shall bring thee back to Egypt in ships, by the way of which I said, thou shalt not see it again, and ye shall be sold there to your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and none shall buy you. Leviticus 26:33. And I will scatter you among the heathen, the enemy, and will draw out a sword after you. The sword is the heathen. And your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste. That's because if you go to Deuteronomy 28:68, we are kicked out of our land. Slavery and the origins of the American police state, or the American police. They were called patrollers, or variously paddy-rollers, or paddy-rolls, and they were meant to be part of the solution to colonial America's biggest problem, labor. Unlike Great Britain, which had a large, basically immobile peasant class that could be forced to work for subsistent wages, there weren't enough cheap bodies in America to do the grunt work. If you were a planter looking to make your fortune in rice or tobacco or cotton, the New World's cash crops, you had to size up to industrial scale. And for that, you needed bodies, armies of bodies, a labor force that could be made to work for terms no less brutal than those inflicted on the miserables in Europe. Native Americans weren't the solution, not after disease, war, and murderous forms of forced labor reduced their number by half. Indentured servants were imported, but in numbers too few to fill the void, and they had a habit of running off. The wide frontier beckoned, all that empty space for sass mouths and malcontents to vanish into. So it became, and this says Africans, but I go back to the first scripture, Deuteronomy 28:68, so it became us, the Father's children. Jamestown received its first cargo of enslaved humans in 1619, a dozen years after the colony's founding. 20 and odd Negroes, according to records, the first installment on the estimated 455,000 who would eventually land in North America. Control of this new labor force would be key. Mutiny was the great fear. By the early 1700s, a comprehensive system of racially directed law enforcement, the cops, was well on its way to being fully developed. This was, in fact, the first systematic form of policing in the land that would become the United States. The Northeast colonies relied on the informal night watch system of volunteer policing and on private security to protect commercial property. In the Southern colonies, policing's origins were rooted in the slave economy and the radically racialized social order that invented whiteness as the ultimate boundary. Whites, no matter how poor or low, could not be held in slavery. Blacks could be enslaved by anyone: whites, free blacks, Native Americans, and people of mixed race. The distinction and the economic order that created it was maintained by a legally sanctioned system of surveillance, intimidation, and brute force, whose purpose was the control of blacks, the police force. Slave patrols, or paddy-rollers, were the chief enforcers of this system. Groups of armed, mounted whites who rode at night among the plantations and settlements of their assigned beats, like the cops have beats today. The word originated with the patrols, seeking out runaway slaves, unsanctioned gatherings, weapons, contraband, and generally any sign of potential revolt. They were the stuff of lore and songs. I'm going to leave this article in the description so you can read it. Slave patrols usually consisted of 3 to 6 white men on horseback equipped with guns, rope, and whips. Does this look familiar? Mounted on horseback, guns, ropes, but now they can't carry whips. This happened in August of this year. And what happened to these children of the KKK? Texas cops who led black men by rope on horseback won't face criminal investigation. They're not going to face investigation because they are doing what their forefathers did. And their forefathers didn't get busted for it. That's what they were put here to do. He's just doing what's in his blood. A mounted man presents an awesome figure and the power of majesty of a group of men on horseback at night could terrify slaves into submission. Among other duties, paddy-rollers enforce the pass system, IDs and passports of today, which required all slaves absent from their master's property to have a pass or ticket, signed by the master indicating permission for travel. Any slave encountered without a pass was subject to detention and beatings on the spot. They still beat the shit out of us now, excuse me. Although possession of a valid pass was by no means a guarantee against beating, same as today. Certain people granted power can be counted on to abuse those under their authority just because they can, just like today. One imagines, moreover, that gratuitous beatings relieve the tedium and fatigue of night-long patrols and serve to reinforce the notion of who's boss. The paddy-rollers' authority extended to patrolling plantation grounds and entering slave quarters, where the presence of books, writing paper, weapons, liquor, luxury items, or more than the usual store of provisions was cause for beating. Gatherings, weddings, funerals, church services were grounds for beating, writes Haddon. Mingling with whites, especially poor whites, or any loose, disorderly, or suspected person, beating. Backtalk, beating. Dressing tidily, beating. Singing certain hymns, beating. Even best behavior could earn a lick. Elijah Davison, another former Virginia slave, remembered that as bondmen lay asleep in their own quarters, patrollers, cops, would enter, just like they do now, and lightly hit them with a whip to see if they were truly tired and asleep at the end of the workday. Haddon writes, for an enslaved woman, a beating might well be the least of her worries. Rape. They do the same now. The system continued largely intact after emancipation and the defeat of the Confederacy. Legally sanctioned slave patrols were replaced by night-riding vigilants like the KKK, whose white robes, flaming torches, and queer pseudo ghost talk were intended for maximum terrorizing effect. Lynching and shooting took place alongside the more traditional punishments of beatings and whippings. Blacks' economic value as slaves had evaporated, and with it, the constraints on lethal force that had offered some measure of protection under the old system. White supremacy continued as the dominant reality for up until today, a social and psychological reality maintained by terror, surveillance, and the letter of the law. Its power, this is almost over, family, its power was such that even the New Deal The most profound reordering of American society since the Civil War left white supremacy intact. 26 lynchings were recorded in southern states in 1933. An anti-lynching bill was defeated in Congress in 1935 because the system was going to continue to allow it. Southern blacks' awareness of antebellum history was acute, naturally enough, given that they were living it. Even 70 years after freedom came, Haddon writes, one former bondsman declared he still had his badge and pass to show the patrol, the cops, so that no one could molest him. The only thing that has changed from then to now is now the white racist justice system employs black coons to give the appearance that they aren't what they are and always have been. A means to capture us, control us, and kill or lock us up in enslavement for the purpose of extremely cheap labor. You have the cops that walk the beat that murder or detain us. You have the guards in the prisons that maintain order and assign work to the prisoners that make everything from computer boards, farm-raised fish, and high-end furniture for the true slave masters that reap the benefits of extremely cheap labor, corporate America. Nothing has changed, but fortunately for us, there's a silver lining in this nightmare. Psalms 37, 1 through 15. Fret not thyself because of evildoers, our enemy, the cops, the white people. Neither be thou envious against them that work unrighteousness, the same people I just mentioned. For they shall soon wither like the grass, and fade as the green herb. Trust in the Almighty, and do good. Dwell in the land, and cherish faithfulness. So shalt thou delight thyself in the Almighty, and he shall give thee the petitions of thy heart. Commit thy way unto the Almighty. Trust also in him, and he will bring it to pass. And he will make thy righteousness to go forth as the light, and thy right as the noonday. Resign thyself unto the Almighty, and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, the white people, off of our backs. Because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. Cease from anger, and forsake wrath. Fret not thyself, it tendeth only to evildoing. For evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait for the Almighty, they shall inherit the land, and not this land over here. And yet a little while, and the wicked is no more. Yea, thou shalt look well at his place, and he is not. But the humble shall inherit the land, and delight themselves in the abundance of peace, not this unholy land here. The wicked plotteth against the righteous, and gnasheth at him with his teeth. The Almighty doth laugh at him, for he seeth that his day is coming. The wicked has drawn out the sword, and have bent their bow, to cast down the poor and needy, to slay such as are upright in the way, us. Their sword shall enter into their own heart, and their bows shall be broken. They're going to be caught in their own snare. The white racist justice system and their foot soldiers know that their time is short. That's why you see the craziness going on in these times. They will do their device that will catch their own foot. They will snare themselves. They will snare themselves because when they do what they're going to do, and everyone on the planet will know what it is, we will cry out to our Almighty Creator. Our Almighty Creator will hear our cries, and they, the enemy that surrounds us and enslaves us, will in the end walk into death. And we that are led by the Almighty will be shown tender mercy and walk into the hands of our Almighty Creator. I believe it's almost time, family. As always, fear your Father, the Almighty Creator. Separate from the enemy that surrounds us. And all praise to our Father, the Almighty Creator. Love you.